Hello again. I'm in the park. I don't I can't tell you how much joy I get out of just sitting here. Now before I turn on this camera, I'll sit here in silence and I'll sip on some coffee and I'll just be at peace. It's a wonderful feeling. I recommend highly you find somewhere that has a lot of trees and nature and just sit there in silence. Sip you some tea or whatever beverage that gives you a little bit of happy and just breathe in, breathe out. And while you're doing that, I also recommend you take in whatever has troubled you throughout the week and think about exhaling that away from you while you're sitting. Like breathe in deep as you can, make it intentional, and blow it away. Breathe it in, breathe in good. Imagine yourself breathing in some good healing energy and healing vibes and blow it away. And then I also recommend once you're done doing that and if you're feeling a little better, and you will, say thank you. Because it is nature that heals us sometimes. Being outside, some fresh air heals us sometimes. Even at the height of COVID, I sat outside and said, you know what, I know. And I was in this park. I said, I know that there are times where especially right now, that we're told to just stay inside and shelter ourselves. And for the most part, that was safe. But when you're outdoors in a park, you have nothing but open air. You can find you a little spot and breathe in and breathe out. Sometimes, many days, I know a lot of folks that that's what got them through. So we don't have to just save that for times of trouble. We can use that all the time. Again, I recommend it highly. Now, I have a kinship with this park. I've had it since I was a little person. And I find it highly therapeutic to come out and sit. I also love people watching. A friend of mine, we were just talking about it the other day. Like, when we're people watching, we make up little stories about what's going on in their day, in their life. To me, sometimes that's better entertainment than TV, because at least it's something real and tangible. Anyway, I got my coffee, and normally I'll come out here with water, but it's a beautiful day. It's not too hot or muggy. Fall is just everything. And I'm a winter babe. I was born in the winter, but for some reason, fall is it. Nah, I don't enjoy pumpkin spice or nothing like that. Like I really can't stand it. The taste of it. It's not my bag. But I'm not knocking anybody who gets a little joy from it because I didn't told you before the combination of nutmeg and cinnamon actually helps boost some happy feelings in folk. And I know that some people like to make fun of people who go straight for the pumpkin spice in the fall. I'm just like, I may not like the full combo of whatever else they have in there, but a lot of them spices are can be definitely used to help boost some happy feelings. So I'm not knocking it. Do what you gotta do to be happy. Don't worry about what nobody else think. Do you? I was laughing at the prospects of a lot of things that goes on in our public zeitgeist. And one of the things that gave me a little laugh this week was during the vice presidential talkings and musings. One of the things that was said is that one of our candidates does witchcraft. And I'm just like, and everybody's like, did somebody vet him? You need to vet somebody. You're still afraid of this stuff? Now, I'm not saying there's nothing to, like, everything can be apprehensive. You can go to a bad physician or mechanic and they can do you some harm. Everything has a capacity to do harm if you're using it incorrectly or using it in a way that intentionally causes malice and pain. But what's funny about it to me is that I know I'm not the only one that sees this, the illogical nature of the argument. Somebody, if say for instance that were the case, like, so all the things that goes on in the various belief structures, a lot of that can be considered craft. I mean, the Catholic preach saging the cathedrals is not a craft. Is it because of who's doing it? I'm trying to understand the argument. Is it because of who's doing it? Because they were ordained by a specific belief structure. When they do it, it's not witchcraft. But when someone who isn't ordained by a certain specific sect of religion, it is witchcraft. I'm trying to understand. Like, pick a battle. Either be ignorant or no, or decide you're aligning yourself with people who burned human beings because they ain't like what they was doing a long time ago. It's like, this person's a witch. So if someone's branded a witch, I'm just saying, if someone's branded a witch or calls themselves that, sometimes people who are not within that type of subculture, there are judgments. And then on top of that, there's like, they must be manipulating the environment they're in to meet their own goals. What if that? Some people might do that, I don't know. But when you pray, listen to me now. When you pray, your goal in praying, and I'm talking about folks who think like this, when you're in Abrahamic religions, you're asking God to manipulate a situation in your favor. When you go to specifically the Catholic Church, for example, you're lighting candles and reverence to your passed on ancestors and loved ones. And so I know this argument has been said before, but I think it's just still a ridiculous thing that we're still talking about this in a way that is shameful. And it's like, some things, no matter what you do, and no matter what culture you come from, no matter what belief structure you have, if you're doing shameful things with it, then you're doing shameful things with it. Or if you aren't, you aren't. And it depends on if you're ashamed or not, because some people ain't ashamed of what they do. But it ain't for us to shame them on necessarily in that realm unless they're doing something to you. Or you see something that you can tangibly see with your own eyes and witness for yourself. They've done something harmful to someone. Otherwise, what is the judgments coming from? Because a lot of that stuff is interchangeable. Some folks just choose not to go in a church house and do it. I think a lot of times that's the only difference. Because let me tell you, I have a lot of witchy friends. I'm trying to get out this sun, y'all. Even though it's nice and chill out here, I sometimes adjust myself so I'm not directly being assaulted by sunlight. Because I'm trying not to burn. My skin don't peel or nothing like that. It's just, it hurts sometimes. Anyway. I think one of the biggest ways we can practice non-judgment is to actually look at things with a clear understanding, objectively. Looking at things subjectively, that means it is your opinion based on non-facts. Or is it opinion based on facts, but it's just still opinion because you haven't done the legwork to help it become objective and become fact, right? So it's kind of a silly thing to do. And I said, I have a lot of witchy friends, and most of what they do, they come out in nature and they pick up rocks. It's a pretty rock, and they pick it up. Or they make teas, or very nurturing people. I think we confuse a lot of the different belief structures because we are socialized to believe in one thing for the most part. And believe in one mode, not one thing, but one mode of connecting to our spirit. And I think that we do ourselves a disservice when we don't open our eyes to more, or at least be accepting of more, because everybody's entitled to connect in their own way. And for us to judge that negatively, it'd be the same as if collectively, yes, there are people who are falling away from organized religion. But the reason why they're falling away from organized religion, don't you know, is because of the stagnation in evolution and thought. It's like, yes, I've talked about this last time. Yes, we've been given some knowledge and wisdom of the past, but we're also supposed to build upon that continuously as we continue to evolve. And when that doesn't happen, it becomes problematic for the culture because we are steadily evolving, yet the doctrine we're using is not. We're not evolving our thought based on our current structure as opposed to structures of the past. Because there was a lot of things that were not clean before that are perfectly safe now. So some of the things that you're reading in some of these older texts are based upon health and wellness of that time. Like some people don't eat pork. I ain't mad at you, but I understand why they didn't want you to eat pork back then. It was unclean. There was no way to keep it clean. Now, again, I'm one that will tell you that farm animals are not treated well. I think they should be treated better. I think we can do better as human beings. Treat them like they have a soul because they do. I know some people don't believe that, but that's my subjective opinion. I say subjective all the time because I want you to know the difference between what I feel and what I think and a fact. I believe if it can feel sadness, it can feel love, it can nurture, then it has a soul. And that's why I believe that. One of the biggest reasons why most human beings don't eat apes and gorillas, because we see a kinship within them. And there's not much difference between them and a cow or a pig. They're understanding. And elephants are highly intelligent. And I think if we base the way we treat all living things as if it has feelings, we still need to live, we need to eat, we need to thrive. Now, I'm not one of those people that don't eat meat. There are times where I don't. I go a long span and I just choose not to, just to cleanse myself. Because all things have within them, especially in this world, some kind of something that's going to cause you some long-term effects that are not necessarily positive. So if you cleanse from one thing, for a little while, you give your body a chance to regenerate, right? Whatever it might be fighting off based on what you eat. That's not necessarily religious or spiritual, it's just common sense to me. But some people, it's like, well, I'm just eating plants. I knew, well, growing up, when I got to know vegans and vegetarians, I'm doing that because the animals are treated so poorly and they have feelings. Okay, cool. But you can't tell me that these trees don't feel. The land doesn't feel. And then they went ahead and proved it scientifically that plants feel things. There was one experiment, and I can't quote it right now, but I saw it, and if you want to Google it, you can, based on the information I give you, where they treated one plant with love, kindness, and good words and affirmations, and another plant that was just nasty to it. One of them thrived and one of them died. They feel things. And then even further experiment showed that the train is coming through. The further experiment showed that plants have feelings when we cut them. It's like, but what is one to do when everything can feel? We'll be as kind as we can and as respectful as we can before we consume that. And that's a very little thing that we collectively can do. A friend of mine who told me a while back that she started practicing being thankful, not just to God or the universe for her meals, but to every living thing that went into it. Saying thank you for that sacrifice so that she can be nourished. It's like, yeah, that's something I do. I give thanks for the animals and the plants. Some people just give thanks for the animals. But I think about the plants too. You're dying so that I can live. That's a sacrifice that I appreciate, and I'm going to say that before give a little respect before I consume, just go to consuming. And I know sometimes it's off-putting because whenever I eat, I pray. I'm not expecting you to give grace. You say do what you want to do it. I don't care. I'm not gonna judge you negatively if you don't. But I'm saying grace over my food because I'm thankful for it. I'm thankful for the sacrifice. And if there was something bigger than me that could eat human beings still walking around, I would hope that it has some deference or reference from my life because my life is valuable. And then as I think my life is valuable, their lives are valuable too. Doesn't mean I don't get to eat. I'm going to eat. Just don't put a good steak in front of me, child. It'll be in trouble. And I didn't move. The sun done moved. So I guess what I'm going to do? Move again. I firmly believe that if we were more accepting of each other, just as is without judgment, we get along better as human beings. But when you're constantly socialized to believe that if you don't believe in this one thing or practice in this one way or give respect in this one way, then something must be bad or wrong or evil about you. Well, child, I don't know if y'all are well versed in the Crusades or well versed in a lot of the genocides around the world that's happened in human history, or well versed in the abuses and many different levels of many different belief structures that either looked away or covered up. If we judged based on that, there's dogmatic Abrahamic specifically over time have committed the most atrocities that I am aware of. And I still would say, hold your beliefs true if they give you peace. And when I say beliefs, I mean the way you give respect and deference, the way you find a kinship with your spirit. Do that. But you don't have to be, that's one of those encompassing statements of be in it, not of it. You can be in it and not of it. So if you go on to somebody's church house or a cathedral or a temple and you know of things that does not agree with who you are, don't participate in that. But if there are things that bring you peace, love, joy, help you be a better human being, participate in that. And that goes through for every belief, including hoodoo, voodoo, witchcraft, all that. If there are things that speak to your spirit and it helps you be a better human, then do it. But if there are things that you do not agree with, or does not agree with you personally, then do that. It's like not liking cilantro honey. And I can tolerate a little cilantro. We put too much in that bad boy. I'm one of those people that does not taste food. It tastes like something weird. And I can't help that. It's just a thing. Some people don't taste that. Some people do. And that's how you got to treat it, like cilantro honey. There are things I will not do. But also, I had to practice this part because of the way I was socialized growing up. Non-judgment and what others choose to do. Now, unless you choose to do it to me or somebody vulnerable, it ain't none of my business, y'all. Do what you want to do. Okay? But because something looks weird or different to you doesn't make it bad. Okay? Weird, different can be cool as shit. It's only bad when it's causing harm to others. Got it? And good and bad is relative terms. It depends. Good and bad is subjective almost always. But there are times where it's obvious there's a bad. It's obvious there's a good, right? But for most things in life, that is a subjective idea. Those are subjective ideas. Because what's bad to one person is good for another. What's good to one person is bad for another. But a lot of that has to do with the way we were raised and socialized. Nothing more. But as we grow into who we are, into our being and who we're going to be, we have the opportunity to open our mind and expand it based on our own thoughts and experiences, not something that was taught to us. And that is a way that we can cultivate acceptance, more acceptance, And as we cultivate more acceptance, we can allow more love in. Because if we accept others, we accept ourselves. I find it has been my experience the people who are the most indignant about their beliefs and how someone else should believe them as they do, or they're not good people. It has been my experience that it is those people specifically that usually have the most problematic issues in their life as it pertains to not walking how they talk. You mean to tell me I'm supposed to be in a church house every Sunday and whatever Bible study day, whatever a given church has, but there are issues if you believe in these things and you've walked your life by these things. There are issues that are clearly outlined in the passages that you shouldn't be doing and you did them anyway. How am I supposed to believe you? And I don't think you believe it because you didn't do the things. You're not practicing the things that even the book that you govern your life by says. And the reason why it said it that way, the hypocrisy is a problem. And that's why a lot of the church doors are flying open the opposite way. Because hypocrisy, people are starting to see the hypocrisy and not fearing the damnation. And damnation is problematic in itself. It's like we're all here to learn and grow. And as we constantly adapt and evolve, we learn how to do things better, hopefully. But if you get to your last breath, and not, the old folks should say, you ain't promised tomorrow, so be good today. To say you know what happens on the other side is an arrogant thing. I don't care what book says what. It's an arrogant thing because there are so many old texts that say so many different things. In the long scheme of things, the best thing to think is how the agnostics or the atheists think. I know, come with me. You already know what I believe. I make it very, very clear that I believe that there is an omnipresent force around us, right? I'm just not so arrogant to say I know exactly what and who that is, and I'm going to tell it to you, and you must believe it in the way that I say it to you. It's a very personal thing. But that doesn't mean I don't think it would be prudent to tell people they're living in one life and there's nothing on the other side. Because I think the something on the other side sometimes keeps folks from living in their best version of themselves. There's something on the other side. So because there's something on the other side, you must adhere to this. Unless you want to do the something on the other side to be bad. But if you do adhere to this, something on the other side is good. But the things you're adhering to sometimes is problematic for others around you. It's like you don't have an idea and thinking for yourself and not seeking out the future reward. And I think it is true. If you're seeking out future reward and that's why you're a good person, that's why you are dutiful and showing up to the church house, let me tell you who you're not. If you're being a good person just because I just choose that, I don't know what's on the other side, or there's nothing on the other side. You found out today. Imagine you found out today there's nothing on the other side. It's just darkness. That's it. That gives you the opportunity to choose to be in the vibration of love or not. Based on nothing more than you choose it. But when you seek out reward, and that's why you're being a good person, honey, sometimes, even though it's a struggle to work the way that I work, oh yeah, sometimes it's a struggle. Because like if I don't get if someone doesn't choose to donate something, I'm still going to help them in any way that they need help that I know how and that I can do so, right? I choose that because I super remember needing that for myself. And as cliche as it may sound, I try my best to be who I needed at times of troubles. Whether I had it or not. There are times, and I told you sometimes it's a valid vibration too. To choose to do you after you've been through so much. Like, I'm going to do me. I'm not trying to be here for nobody else. And I get it. And do you. That's not a horrible thing. Just don't be a horrible person to other people. You can say no. Say no a lot, as a matter of fact. But by me choosing that for myself, it's some way cathartic and healing for the past selves that didn't have that. So in that way, it's selfish, right? Sometimes they say there's truly never an unselfish act, and I can get with it because I choose to see where things are selfish and see what is that selfish, what is the result of that selfishness. I get to heal my past self, and someone's present self gets some help. I'm okay with that level of selfishness. Okay. I'm always thrilled and amused whenever a person that I've in some way helped or guided come back years later and say, thank you so much for what you've done, and here's where I am in life now, based on what we learned together. It's some of the most rewarding conversations I've ever had. And I recommend highly that you don't forsake at least every now and again saying yes. That's just a recommendation. You ain't got to do that. Practicing non-judgment as you do it. Because if you can't do it from a space of non-judgment, then don't. Life is hard enough without your judgments. For real. I want to make sure no bugs is in there. But life is hard enough without our personal judgments upon each other. It's not even necessary or needed. The most wonderful thing I think that we can do for ourselves in our community is see another person as yourself. What if I was in that? Who would I be? It's a beautiful exercise. See yourself as someone else. Even the most different as they appear to you, the better. Sit and stand on their feet for a moment. Two things can come out of that I think are beneficial to you personally. One, it saves you a lot of hurt and pain. If you really look at another human being and identify yourself in them, if that were me, what would be my motivation for doing whatever behavior A, B, C, and D? And then be you. Listen, I'm gonna tell you personally, I love to use my personal stories as a, mode of teaching. So recently, someone that I cared about just fambused. And they were going for like, I would say a month and a half, something like that. And when I saw them again, they apologized to me, but I was immediately irritated. Like, I don't care what I'm going through. I would never just be gone. Right? And the kids call that ghosting. But in friendships and all kinds of relationships, it happens from time to time. But sometimes there's a reason for it. Sometimes a person just can't no more because life is so hard. So I took that as an opportunity to not step on their neck and be like, okay, the disrespect is not going to be tolerated. See, the old me would have read that person for filth. New me is like, not doing it, because we was in a public place too when I saw them. Like, not doing that. I'll tell you how I feel later. And I did. And then I see them and we're friendly and it's cool, right? But over time, I was like, okay, so it got weird. I'm like, there's still this uneasiness about the vibe around us, even though we're cool. I say, I'm going to take the time and say, look, I know you kind of feel like maybe I hate you. I don't. And if we have an opportunity to at least be friendly again, I'd like to have a private conversation so we can see where we are, like touch base. I don't know whether or not that human being was interested in that, and I don't care. But in that moment of me doing it, I owed that person nothing at all. But in my assessment, I put myself in that person's shoes, and the things that they were trying to tell me initially were things that were valid reasons to be like, I need to go inside of myself. Sometimes we do that. So I was like, oh, you know what? Maybe because I'm me, sometimes I can be a little intimidating, and I'm not changing that for nobody. If you're intimidated about me, that's a you issue. Because I'm kind to everyone I meet, unless you give me a reason not to be. Period. I'm still gonna be kind to you. I'm just gonna be more stern until you get out of my face, or I make you get out of my face. But at the end of the day, it's like I did all the things I need to do, and now I'm done. Without anger, malice, or judgment. You put yourself in their shoes, and then determine how you feel, and then you move forward. It doesn't have to be a situation that breeds continuous malice or weirdness, and not a good way, because I love weird. But this bodes true for pretty much everybody in your life. You don't have to say, oh, that person's different than me, or they're operating in a different way that I would operate, so that must mean they intentionally tried to hurt me. And even if they did, if someone intentionally tries to hurt you, love, nobody does that without being themselves in pain. That's a subjective opinion, but that's been my experience. That's based on experience, honey. I've not met a human being that hurt someone that wasn't themselves hurting. Doesn't mean that you always got to extend or overextend yourself, but that keeps you from having malice and hate in your heart moving forward towards anybody. It's like, oh, that's what they chose to do? Cool. And move on with your life. Like, not just I'm saying your feelings don't matter. Your feelings matter all the time. Everybody's feelings matter, honey. But I'm saying to you, sit with your feelings, feel how they feel, and then move to the next step, my darlings. The next step is, okay, I'm putting one foot in front of the other, and I'm choosing to, oh, what is that? Sorry, it's like a cutest little caterpillar. Like, I'm not going to touch you, though, because I already know you're going to sting me. The easiest way to do that is to do what I did when I first opened up this conversation, and that's breathe it in and blow it away whenever you can. Sit with yourself means nobody else. You're not complaining about it, 10, 11, 12 times with everybody who will listen. You're sitting with it yourself, feeling your feelings yourself. And that means that you have to learn to self-soothe. Self-soothing. Doing things for self-care. Laying in your bed and doing nothing. Reading a book that you love. Watching a TV show that you love. Going out and get yourself some coffee and sitting in the park. Whatever it is your thing is, you self-soothing. You think through those things. Feel whatever anger, grief, pain, whatever. Feel those things. And then realize you can't control nobody. But you can control you. So you go with that. And the next step after that is like, what am I going to do about this? Do I continue entangling with this human being, or am I done? Did I learn what I need to learn from this human being, or am I done? Because that's essentially what we're doing. We're learning constantly from others around us. And we can thank them. We can thank them as our teacher in our mind. We ain't got to do it personally, because I refuse to thank somebody who intentionally or unintentionally caused me harm because they ain't learned some stuff, or they're still hurting by some stuff. Butterfly. I'm not going to thank you in your face necessarily, but I'll thank you in my solitude and sitting with myself, because I don't have to learn it again if I can listen to what you were teaching me. And that's for you to keep if you want it. Thank you for teaching me that. I ain't got to learn it again. When I see the signs and symptoms of something like that happening again, I sit with myself and chill out. Make no moves. Sometimes also sit still. Sit still. Not just sitting with yourself, but sit still. That means don't take any action because you want it to change. Look, I'm talking to my past self and my current selves. And when I say selves, I'm talking about all of you. Taking an action that is in some way self-appreciating, or a lack of self-love or self-respect, it's not going to change the outcome in the way that you want it to change. Sometimes it only makes it worse. So what you can do for yourself is sit still and do nothing. And then also, believe it or not, it's as simple sometimes as when somebody shows you who they are, believe them. Because that's who they are right now. And until you see change, because it came to you organically, not because you forced it, You can get in your friends' faces all you want to all day long and try to get them to understand what they're doing is not cool, not right. You can get into your neighbor's face, your coworker. You can get into their faces all you want to and try to explain to them why what they're doing is wrong. And if somebody ain't ready to hear that, they ain't ready to hear it, child. Oof. But if you can, y'all know I'm in the park, so we got some folks out. Somebody's baby's having a tantrum. But the best you can do is say, okay, I accept this is where you are. And then it's like, imagine like you walking down a path and you meet them on a path and y'all sit there for a spell. And y'all interchange energies, friendships, and all those things. And then one or both of you does something that rubs the other raw or upsets them in some way. You handle it, you deal with it, and you figure out on the other side, how did I handle myself? Did I handle myself egoically? In other words, did I go, did I go off? Did I scream and holler? Did I cause hurt, harm, and pain, additional hurt, harm, and pain to myself and the other person? Or did I conduct myself in a way where I can walk away and someday maybe we can be friends? Or someday maybe we can at least be friendly. That's something I ain't always know I do, because I was, there's some people that can tell you some things. I ain't ashamed of it, no. To this day, I'm like, oh, listen, I ain't gonna start nothing, but I'm gonna show no finish it. But how I finish it, though, changed. How I finish things just now changes. Sometimes I finish it just by never engaging again and saying, be at peace. I hope you healed. I'm cool with me. You go do you. And sometimes I finish it by telling people what for. It depends on what is required at the time. But I don't go straight to that nowadays. It takes too much energy, child. This sun is insisting on following me and making me burn. My forehead is so hot. But in essence, what I'm saying to you, the lack of acceptance will make us a lack of acceptance and judgment. Well, I didn't talk about it last video. Them shoes don't belong to you. If you believe there are some shoes that are bigger than all of ours, and some people do, and then them shoes is the ones that determine the one that feels those shoes is the one that determines whether somebody's good or bad. How come you feel like you have to speak for it? Because I would think it's more powerful than all of us. But the book said, yes, the book said things. That's great. We talked about this before. Books say things all the time. Doesn't mean we can't use the stuff that is still relevant to us at this time in our life. And realize some of the stuff is just sometimes biased to the time that it was written in. Doesn't mean it isn't just as powerful and holy and beautiful. But it would help us all to at least try to understand that we should be evolving, could be evolving in a way that could be beneficial. Now, do I believe that some people overcorrect? Oh, yes. Some folks do be out here overcorrecting. Like, this wasn't accepted, even though this is a thing. So we're going to go too far this way. Sometimes too far that way. Like, say, for instance, church hurt. That's a thing that's one of the biggest reasons that I'm understanding that people are flocking away from organized religion is hypocrisy, but also the pain and suffering they endured at the hands of those who claim to be believers. It's like with overcorrection is to become atheist. And that's teachers on. Again, I'm like, if you are deciding to be an atheist, or you are an atheist and still deciding every day to be the best version of yourself, that's good enough. That's my subjective opinion. But if you really think about it from a logical perspective, you're not seeking out reward to be a good person. You're not doing it out of fear of retribution after your death. You're not doing it because you want to go to paradise or something like that. You're choosing to be kind and decent human being to yourself and others because no other reason other than you just want to, congratulations, you've evolved as a human being. That's not me advocating for you not to believe in nothing. Again, I think that's beautiful and special. But I would I would like to think that you understand the logic there. Like some of the witchy friends that I have, they don't believe in anything other than nature. Like we can see the trees are alive, the grass is green, the oceans move, the wind blows, the formations of the rocks of the earth give us such beautiful structures, and the way the water carves and molds it. We see that fire burns because of what you can witness. They believe in what they can witness. That is holy. And there's also nothing wrong with that. Again, we are given a soul and a consciousness. We know what hurt and pain feels like. So we got to really choose to cause hurt and pain to somebody else. After we get to a certain age, you're choosing to cause hurt and pain to someone else. Especially when they tell you what hurts and you hurt them anyway. Now, I'm one of those people that believe in karma and dharma. You ain't got to for these purposes. But I do believe that that's in the universe craves balance. I think about it from a scientific perspective, that the universe craves balance. When the pendulum swings one way, it will eventually go the other way. When it happens, some people call it, sometimes people say somebody got instant karma. Maybe it can happen like that. I think it's actually a blessing to get instant karma, because you learn your lesson immediately and you can choose differently immediately. To get karmic retribution decades down the line, especially when you don't see it coming, I think that would be worse. So somebody say, oh, that person got instant karma. Well, good. Maybe there's some vibration in that seems like they'll seek out a lesson. They'll learn it if they get it instant. Or maybe the universe senses their vibration that they need instant karma just to learn even a little bit. Who knows? I don't pretend on here to tell you I know. But there are some things I do know. And just because I know them doesn't mean that I have to push it on to you. And getting to know those things, the things that I do know, and getting to know those things, that was a difficult and challenging journey to be on. And the more I learned, the more I wanted to go backwards and say, I want to unknow some of this stuff. I used to think I wanted to know everything. I was arrogant enough to say, I'm going to talk to management because this has been a mess. Look, I'm going to talk to management. I was very caring about it. I don't care what I got to do. I'm talking to management. Child, you don't want to talk to management. I would imagine you won't want to talk to management. It's better for you to sit here and enjoy the breeze and enjoy the trees. Enjoy the life that you have. Bringing as much joy as you possibly can bring to it. Learning as much as you can quickly. Learning quickly is more important than talking to management. Learning quickly. Because if you take too long to learn, honey, every lesson gets harder and harder, if you take too long to learn. I don't know if y'all know this, but I know this. Take too long to learn something. Okay, you didn't learn it this way, I'm going to give you it this way. And this time the lesson's going to be harder because you got a little prep the first time. So if you didn't have to learn this thing 3 times, the third time it's going to kick you right up in your teeth. Now that has been my experience in life for myself and others I've witnessed. But outside of learning from each other, having the best version of life that you can in one lifetime, and sometimes that means that you have to actively try to be less problematic, and that's what I meant when I said put your feet in somebody else's shoes. Now you being a human being adult and another human being adult, or even a child, those shoe sizes are similar. It's not so dissimilar that you can't do it. Now, them shoes you can actually try to feel, or at least stand next to them and offer some understanding from another human being's perspective because you've asked questions to yourself and to them possibly, and try to learn and try to understand. And you can sometimes at the end of the understanding, what your understanding is, I don't want to be bothered with this human being anymore. And that's it. That's the end of it. Or sometimes your understanding could be, well, I can lend them some sympathy even if I haven't been through that. Or I can lend them some empathy because I've been through that. It's not more complicated than that. This conversation is about not doing silly stuff. Not saying silly stuff. And to me, it is very silly to make judgments about a person's cultural identity, religious identity, belief structure, or the way they look. This goes too for the immigrant conversation. The lack of awareness in those conversations sometimes is puzzling to me. If I'm just saying, if you're one of those people, or you know people, maybe you can have the conversation with them that don't enjoy immigrants being in this country, then I welcome you to eat some very bland food, to wear some very bland clothing. Because go ahead and search you up, because now that we have AI and Google just knowing everything and in everybody's business, we can just pretty much find anything, can't we? If you're one of those people that think immigrants don't belong here, or you don't like just to allow them in, then again, go on here and on Google, research Puritan meals, research the Puritans, and because it's been my experience with the majority of people who have those thoughts and ideas. Again, I'm coming from a non-judgmental space. Don't think I'm attacking you, because I'm not. Those people who have those ideas are people who are the successors of the Puritans and folk who came over here on the Mayflowers and stuff like that. So go on ahead and look up the meals that they used to eat, seasonings and all, or lack thereof, in their clothing and their fashion. And then over time, look up even from over in England way, and look up all of the things, because it's almost like someone saying they don't care for Asian immigrants. I don't hear that much, but some people thinking that, especially during COVID. But yet you're enjoying Italian pasta. Where do you think that came from? They originated from. To say you don't love or won't welcome others that's different than you, it's like saying, well, I am ethnocentric. That is a choice. It is a valid choice for you. As long as you just, in my opinion, I hope you don't be cruel to other people because of it. But if you're going to enjoy the taste and the flavors of life that come from immigrants, it's very silly. Again, let's stop being silly. It is very silly to say I don't want you here. It's a lot of seasons you season your food with. Your barbecue. Think the barbecue ribs got that seasoned over time from just Puritan recipes, Anglo recipes. Look, I ain't hating on them. Just saying it was particularly bland. And if that's how you eat, then cool. A lot of our culture, the beauty in our culture, even down to the clothes that we wear, come from different flavors of life and different cultures of life. I recommend highly you become a student of history, not just for the bad stuff or the stuff that is problematic, because we all, listen, throughout times and throughout our history, as human beings, we've done some really awful things to each other, but we've done some really beautiful things with each other. We've created with each other. Hell, I wouldn't be here sitting in front of you if multiple generations of human beings didn't decide, you know what? I'm gonna say something kind of low-key vulgar, but I think it's funny because it's what came to my head. So I'm just gonna be me right now, okay? Just go with it. That Aztec got a fat ass. That Puritan got a fat ass. That Greek girl got a fat ass. All those different cultures at certain points had to come together and see somebody else in a different culture and say, not just that they have a fat ass, but I like you enough to like make people. I wouldn't be sitting here if that was the case. I know it. Not everybody has the diversity in my DNA, but you still have some diversity. Now, some people like, I was watching an episode of Conan O'Brien, and he did a genealogy, and somebody told him, I have never seen somebody 100% Irish. He's like, wow, that's amazing. He's like, just looking at him. He's like, you know what that means, right? He's like, what? I'm paraphrasing. That means you're inbred. It's like, no wonder you got a gigantic head, but he's a wonderful human being from what I can tell. I used to love that show, Conan O'Brien. I still watch him on podcasts and stuff because I think he's hilarious. But for the most part, most of us have diversity within our DNA. And you want it to be so because you ain't gonna be as lucky. Most people who don't have diversity is not as lucky as Conan O'Brien. Okay. And when I say lucky, I mean mentally, physically, all the things. It's problematic when you don't have diversity in your DNA. That's another reason why it's silly. Silliness to think you don't need cultural mixing. That you don't need a little diversity in your DNA. Because it creates a more robust human being. It's like a lot of our pugs would beg us to stop breeding them. Because they need diversity. Mutts are the healthiest animals. There needs to be diversity in breeding human beings. The sad thing about it, human beings understand this with our animal husbandry, but we don't understand this within our own husbandry. Get out of our country. They're doing this and that. Well, if we intermingle and we can teach each other to cultivate a culture of love, acceptance, and togetherness, while also mutually understanding that us coming together and sharing our ideas, sharing our cultures is always a beautiful creation. Maybe that wouldn't be the case. So maybe stop being silly. Anyway, I've been talking at y'all for over 50 minutes. I'll talk to y'all again soon. Bye.